The Texas justice system is messy, so let's break it down. You're listening to So You Got Arrested, the podcast that tells you what really happens after an arrest. Hosted by BRCK Criminal Defense attorneys, we talk to the people who've lived it, worked in it, and been shaped by it. Whether you're facing charges or just want to understand your rights, your options, and the smart moves that could change everything, we've got your back.
So it's that time of year, Sal. Fiesta's upon us here in San Antonio. Do you have a favorite event, a Fiesta that you like to go to?
It used to be the Oyster Fest. I used to like to go
Oyster Bake?
Yeah, Oyster Bake. Yeah, there you go. That shows you how long it's been since I've been there. But I'd like to go see the concerts. And
yeah, I know you're a rock guy.
Yeah, if there's a rock concert nearby, I'm there.
Yeah. You know, when I was a student at St. Mary's, I actually detested the Oyster Bake because this time of year, we're in mid-April. Finals would be coming up, so I'd be a student at St. Mary's, finals are 2 weeks away, and they would shut down the campus for Oyster Bake. And then we'd get back to campus after Oyster Bake, and the entire campus would smell like rotted oysters and stale beer.
Desecrated holy ground.
There you go.
And that was a poor excuse for not passing the exams.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, but now Oyster Bake's become one of my favorite events because of the live music. They have all the stages, and then the food. I'm a huge Fiesta food guy. I like the gorditas and the roasted corn. And do you have a...
No, like for those type of items, I mean, you can pretty much get them anywhere. But man, they are definitely overpriced, and it bums me out that the beers are this big and about $20 a beer. So yeah, I have to start sipping.
Yeah,
to milk it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with Fiesta comes an increase, believe it or not, in criminal cases in the city of San Antonio. And one can imagine people go out, they're having fun, they're drinking with their friends, and sometimes that leads to arrests. Yeah. So I'm not trying to trick you or anything, but I'm going to ask you, what types of offenses do you think see an increase in popularity during Fiesta?
Sure. Maybe in former law enforcement, you have situations where task force are specifically, retained or recruited by the city from different parts of the county or around from the nearby areas to come and work on enforcement, usually DWI enforcement, drug enforcement, and again, just security reasons. But these task force are primarily looking for drunk drivers. So anybody who's planning on drinking and driving, I mean, you've got to anticipate a higher ratio of law enforcement out there. Absolutely. Looking for a reason for them to pull you over. And there's an unwritten rule regarding law enforcement. They have to make some arrests, So if you're out there and you've been paid almost time and a half or double time to come and arrest people in these task force and you don't make any arrests, you're not going to be invited to come over the following year. So cops have to go out there and make arrests.
Well, and that's why we like having Sal on the podcast. Sal's a friend of the podcast. Sal Martinez is a former DPS trooper, DEA agent, best-selling author, and he's got his book from his time as a DEA agent, and now he's currently a bail bondsman. And so he's a kind of a Renaissance man of sorts within the criminal justice system, and he brings an interesting perspective to the podcast. So you're absolutely right. During Fiesta, there is a marked increase in the number of DWI arrests that occur in San Antonio. So I'm going to give you some statistics. In 2021, during the week and a half of Fiesta, there were 169 DWI arrests. The following year, 129. In 2023, 159. 2024, 139, and last year was over 150. So there's definitely an increase in DWI-related incidents during Fiesta. You can imagine it, right? People are having fun, they're drinking their beers, and then they feel okay to drive home, and next thing you know, they're getting pulled over.
Yeah, and with these statistics, again, there's a lot of times that law enforcement do not arrest people. They ask somebody who's sober in the car, hey, listen, can you take over and drive away? And that'd be a blessing for the driver, whoever gets originally arrested. But at the same time, there's a lot of other incidences like fighting, public intoxication, accidents. So these all kind of add up. And again, it takes away from a lot of the enforcement efforts by law enforcement to look specifically for people who are a threat to other people on the road.
Right.
And it comes on, let's go back to the people who are actually going to these events. And I'll tell anybody who's going to party at situations like this, one beer is 0.02. So the limit in Texas is 0.08. So after 4 beers, you're right at the limit. So, and let's go back to wine or tequila or whiskey, that's 0.04. So 2 shots of that, you're right at the limit. And I tell people, if you're going to party, you got to eat something before. Always eat. And even I'm a snacker. When I'm drinking, I'm always snacking something. That's why it could be a little thinner. But when you're going to party, don't fall into the beer pressure and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep up with these guys and drink these big old 20, 24 ounces, because then it's going to eventually, it's not going to get out of your system before, right, God forbid, you get pulled over. And again, just don't give in to the beer pressure. Eat something, drink water in between while you're drinking, just to slow down the pace, and don't get caught up with the times.
Yeah, and a lot of people, tell themselves, well, look, I have a high tolerance for alcohol. I can handle my liquor, blah, blah, blah. I know you'd be shocked by this, but I'm the opposite. I have a very low tolerance for alcohol. 2 beers and I'm done. But, you can't rely on that, because when they go and they draw your blood or you do that breathalyzer, it's an actual number. Yeah. And you're right. If the standard is 0.08, a beer, depending on the size, is about 0.02. If you get a large beer, it may be more. And so you have to be very careful with your consumption. When you were a DPS trooper, what kind of things would you be looking for in terms of making a DWI stop? Yeah,
as a law enforcement officer, again, you have a little bit of pressure to make an arrest. So you're out there looking for somebody who's a threat to the roadway. So I would look for vehicles who are swaying, anybody crossing the line or jerking. And the number one way to get stopped is by speeding. There's no reason to be speeding. And you're grabbing the attention of a law enforcement officer. So whenever you get pulled over, it's because you made the mistake of getting pulled over by giving an officer a reason to pull you over. So I tell a lot of people, listen, maintain the brain, don't drive fast, drink water before you hit the road, or drink the soda, something to give you a little boost before you hit the road. And again, I think what law enforcement does is they'll look for the driving situation. Now, when they get pulled over, if you ever get pulled over, as much as I hate saying this, is you got to deny that you've been drinking. They're recording you and everything you say, and the most common response to when I would ask somebody how much they've been drinking, what do you think? Had a couple. That's right. I always say 2 beers.
Yeah, I've had 2 beers.
And I always say, the first and the last, right? Okay, so that's what they would say, and I knew they had a lot more. So as a law enforcement officer, then I look for symptoms in the driver, again, how they pulled over. Let me ask this question, because I've always, wanted to know this. If you approach a car, right, and you see somebody there and they're driving, you ask them, where are you coming from? Oh, I'm coming from, the bar, whatever it is. Well, how many drinks do you have? Oh, I just had 1. Did you ever say, just 1? All right, you're good. Move about your day. Never. That was right. Their probable cause or reasonable suspicion that they've had more than 1. And usually that's what the most common, they'll minimize their situation. They may be swaying, I only had 2. Yeah, right. So, and then again, going through with whatever the law enforcement officer is going to do, if you get pulled over, they're going to ask you a sobriety test. One of them is, I used to do the alphabet. And you'd be surprised how many people couldn't get past the letter D. Right. So A, B, C, Q, S, T, and then they were drunk. But then again, I'd ask them to do other sobriety tests so I can put that in my report, so I can assure the judge, the prosecutor, and everybody else involved in the prosecution that he failed on horizontal gaze nystagmus. That one's a very effective tool for Martin. Yes. So you have right here, you put a pen, they'll put a pen right around the forehead high, and then you follow the pen. They'll keep your head straight. And once it hits that 45-degree angle, and if your pupil starts bouncing, you're drunk. Yeah. Well, I have an eye infection. Excuses are like, everybody got one. So that's one of the more scientific methods for an officer to pick up on if somebody's been drinking. The other thing, again, the standing test. I could barely do some of those walking tests, heel to toe and stuff. Well,
they're testing your fine motor skills and your coordination. Yeah. We all have different coordination. Sure. But I do know I get plenty of clients who say, look, the officer did the tests on me. I think I did well. Well, the officer's not looking for the same things that people assume they're looking for. They're not checking to see whether you fell down. They're checking to see, can you follow all of the instructions?
That's right. And again, a lot of motor skills are so if you're under the influence, it's obvious to the officer. He knows what to pick up on. And so again, one of the main things about getting pulled over, if you do get pulled over, and not only for DWI or something, you're speeding or whatever, the first thing you do is try to get over as safely as you can to the shoulder. And signal, let the officer know that he's behind you, because a lot of times you're jamming out or you're not paying attention, you're texting, and next thing you have an officer following you, and they get upset if you don't pull over right away or make efforts to pull over right away. I've had to bond out a lot of people for evading arrest with a motor vehicle. That's a felony.
Right.
So by the time they pull over, I would recommend you pull over as soon as you can. Once you pull over safely, completely off the road, not even on the shoulder, if you could go in the bar ditch, or if you can, to be great. If not, on the shoulder as much as you can to the right. That way it makes it easier for the officer as well to get out of his vehicle.
Right.
All these things, it helps your situation to show the officer, and maybe that you're not as intoxicated, or it also eases the situation. Even if you haven't been drinking, it tells the officer, hey, this guy's making an effort to make sure that we're both safe to get out of traffic, because there's a lot of accidents that happen. Officers get hit or anyways, drunk drivers run into them. So when you get pulled over, roll down all the windows, put your hands on the steering wheel, and even turn on the inside light of the car, and keep your hands up there. And the officer might either come up on the driver's side or come around the passenger side, or there may be two officers. But it shows them that, hey, they're looking in, so they're always thinking negative. They don't know who's in the car, especially with these tinted windows. If they see you, make an effort to show them, hey, listen, I'm not a threat. It makes a big difference on these stops.
No, it absolutely does. I had a circumstance where I was driving to federal court in Del Rio, maybe about 3 months ago, and I'm going down Highway 90, and there's an area, it's either right before you get to Brackettville or right after Brackettville, where there's nothing out there. And so I'm just flying. I'm doing 90 miles an hour. And they have a lot of DPS troopers out there looking for the human smuggling. Sure. And so, I'm doing 90 miles an hour, and I see a trooper come from a side road and gets behind me. And as soon as he hits his lights, I pull over. Cool. Right. And, I don't wait for him to catch up to me. He's maybe a mile behind me, but I know it's for me. I'm doing 90. He hit his lights. As soon as I flew by, I pulled over. Trooper walks up to the car. First thing he says is, I want to thank you for stopping as soon as I lit you up. I'm just going to give you a warning. Slow down. So, showing proper respect. You have these officers who are worried about their lives and what that stop could turn into. If you make it a little bit easier, just being cooperative, it may make your life a little bit easier in terms of getting a warning or them not, running up the charges on you. Yeah,
and like I said, law enforcement, again, unfortunately, we see things black or white in law enforcement. Either you're a good guy or a bad guy. And if you have a situation where you're pulling a car over and there's multiple people in there, I'm thinking I'm outnumbered. One of them might have a gun. They all might have a gun. And again, that's what law enforcement think. They'll touch the trunk when they come approach, make sure nobody jumps out and surprises them. And the other way is also putting spotlights. I would blind, I would flood the vehicle with my bright lights on my vehicle, just to let them. It'd be hard for them to look back and see how many of us were out there. Sure. And usually I was by myself. Right. I would be working out as a state trooper a lot of times by myself. So all I had was my .357 Magnum and my shotgun. Right. And I liked it when people would roll down the windows, or I didn't like them getting out of the car, and I'd have to try to control the situation. So if you get pulled over, just sit there, be humble, don't argue. Why are you pulling me over? The last thing you want to do is upset the officer by questioning his authority or the reason he pulled you over. A lot of people tell me after I get them out of jail, or even before when I was in law enforcement, first thing, well, I wasn't going 70 miles an hour. I was actually going 69. Come on, So these things, and they tell that to the officer. Yeah, you pissed him off. He's going to write you a ticket. Right. Or maybe more than one.
Well, and nowadays, there's really no reason for it. I mean, we have things, especially, in relation to Fiesta in San Antonio, we have Uber, we have rideshare services like that. So as much as I would love to take people's money when they get their DWIs, as much as Sal would love people to call him for bail, we want to make sure that everybody's safe out there. Call an Uber, or have a designated driver, or have somebody drive you around. Now, if you do make poor choices and you end up getting arrested, you can always reach out to Sal Martinez. What's a good number to reach you?
911. No. Okay. It's actually just called Freedom Bail Bonds. Anything south of San Antonio. I get Wilson County, Atascosa, and Live Oak County as far down that way. But with Freedom Bail Bonds, there's a whole bunch of them around the state. But if you're in those areas, I can help out.
What's your best number?
830-391-3282. It's my cell number.
And then if you need an attorney, BRCK Criminal Defense at 210-874-5080. This is So You Got Arrested with BRCK Criminal Defense and Sal Martinez. We'll be back after the break.
The attorneys at BRCK Criminal Defense have helped over 5,000 clients move on with their lives. When an arrest or accusation turns your life upside down, we have the knowledge, experience, and integrity to get your life back on track. Traditional legal ethics, modern legal tactics, the best defense possible to get you through the criminal justice system. Search BRCK Criminal Defense to see our reviews and find out why so many of our clients have trusted us to fight for them. BRCK Criminal Defense, helping our clients move on with their lives.
Okay, so the offenses that seem to see an increase in numbers during Fiesta are DWI, public intoxication, assault, and there's one other offense that I want to get to before the end of the podcast. But public intoxication, that's just where a person appears in a public place intoxicated to a degree that they're a danger to themselves or others. Did you ever make arrests for public intoxication when you were DPS trooper?
Yeah, constantly. What happens is people just don't know how to maintain their brain and behave themselves in a public venue, whether it's at a convenience store buying some beer or just, causing problems in a public location. On this type of situation here with Fiesta, though, we're living in an aggressive society right now, and people around you are going to make you mad. And if somebody does something or says something, just ignore it. There's no reason to go on and escalate it in a public venue, and especially with so many people around. And when it comes on to actually confrontations, if you're outnumbered, man, you need to de-escalate it. And at the same time, there's somebody else fighting. Let's say a husband and wife are fighting. You don't want to be getting involved with that. So the last thing you want to do is get involved in a domestic situation, because then they're going to see that, or maybe a friend or whoever's backing up one of the other people, they're going to consider you a threat. And next thing you know, you're in the midst of this chaos. And it's happened. Unfortunately, a lot of people who have been trying to do the good thing.
That good Samaritans, they end up getting stabbed.
Yeah, they get beat up.
Yeah.
And in fact, stories are that the other people flip around. The husband and wife are fighting. Next thing you know, they're fighting you because you got involved.
Yeah,
it's just a very aggressive situation. And dealing with other people nowadays, it just seems like it's not as courteous. People are a little bit more abrasive. So you got to be real careful in public venues and ignore what's going on around you. Just kind of focus on what you're having. Have fun.
I've seen plenty of circumstances where officers, maybe somebody is being, what we call necio, right? Maybe somebody's being aggressive, maybe they're yelling, maybe what the officer ends up arresting them for is public intoxication. Maybe they haven't gotten to the point where they got into a fight or they caused an assault, but they're just being aggressive and loud. They get arrested for public intoxication, or what we call PI.
Yeah. And they don't have to be drunk. I mean, they're not going to give you a breath test or sobriety test. They're just going to take you right there. And it's a class C misdemeanor. You're going to get a ticket, or maybe you'll spend the night in jail, and they'll let you out on a PR bond or just whatever.
But you still take the ride down.
Yeah, that's right. So, and not only for alcohol, we're talking about people doing THC or smoking a joint or whatever, and you got people who are heck, you don't even have to do any drugs. People are just going to act silly, and you can be charged with PI. Yeah.
Well, and another offense that comes up during Fiesta is assault. Okay. So, sometimes you have these circumstances, like Fiesta events get crowded, people are drinking, you get one guy bump another guy with a beer, the beer spills a little bit, they start jawing back and forth. Next thing you know, there's a fight. One thing that I always tell people to keep in mind, because I get clients from time to time who say, well, look, the other guy was yelling at me, so he started it. I punched him. That's not self-defense. Under our self-defense laws in the state of Texas, verbal provocation is not enough. So if Sal and I are in a bar and he bumps me and I start yelling at him and I call him names or I insult him and he punches me in the face, he can't claim self-defense because verbal provocation is not enough. It actually has to be physical contact.
That's right. And there's certain types of physical contact people need to be aware of. I mean, sure, it's the old school days, you sit there and rock 'em, sock 'em. But now if you bring out a weapon and you have a knife or a bottle, that's a weapon. That's an aggravated assault, and it goes up to a felony. So, and there's situations also where men or women have reached and grabbed somebody in the neck, and that becomes a felony as well. So whenever you're fighting, do the old style, kick them and scratching and biting and get the heck out of there. But don't put your hands around their throat, and don't even use a pencil or anything. That's a weapon. Yeah. And it becomes a felony.
Well, my best advice is try to avoid the fight.
Yeah, fight or flight. Run away.
You don't know what's going to happen. Because even if you have a valid self-defense claim. Let's say that I punch Sal and Sal punches me back. When the officer arrives, chances are they're going to arrest both of us, right? They're going to say, let the courts figure it out. So there's an old saying, you may beat the rap, but you're not going to beat the ride. And what that means is you may have a case where you have a defense like self-defense, but keep in mind it's a defense. You may not get to pursue that defense until the case actually gets into court. But by that time, you've been arrested, you've had to pay a bail bondsman, you've had to pay an attorney, you've had to miss work to go to court, and then your attorney's in there arguing to the prosecutor, well, wait a minute, the other guy started it, and maybe that case results in a trial before you're finally vindicated. So don't rely on self-defense as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Even if you have a valid self-defense case, you could very well end up in jail.
Even, going back to the initial situation regarding that, I mean, let's just say that there is two people fighting. It's your word against that other person. The problem is you have witnesses that also are going to say, well, you know what? I saw Sal do this, but this guy did this. So they're going to be blaming it on you. So it's guilty till proven innocent. So whatever the people said and told the officer that's going to be in stone. And from there, you're going against the state of Texas and go through the whole process that you just described, Stephen.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you may have some witnesses that are your friends who say one thing, and witnesses that are my friends who say the opposite, and the officer is not going to decide it right then and there. He's going to say, well, let the courts figure it out.
That's right. And I've seen guys that were literally scratched up and beat up, but they arrested him even though the girlfriend was the one who caused all the damage or caused the fight. And again, it just depends on hearsay or witness testimony. And I just tell people, just try not to do it in public, man. Are you going to do anything from partying, drinking, fighting? Stay at home. Don't do it on the road or don't do it in a public place because it'll go to a higher level.
Well, there was speaking of assaults, there was a case here in San Antonio, maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, where this woman stabbed her husband because he was checking out other women at Fiesta. So I imagine there's also an increase in domestic violence.
Where did she stab him?
What's that?
Where did she stab him?
I have no idea. They didn't say it was a murder, so I guess he survived. But he was looking at the other ladies, maybe the Fiesta Sucio was out there.
Blinders. Honey, I was looking at her earrings.
Yeah, there you go. So whenever you get people that are drinking and having a good time, enjoy yourselves, have fun, but you do have to be careful with these other things that come up. Now, there is a relatively new type of crime, and I say relatively new, it's maybe been the last 5 or 6 years that we started seeing it, and now we see it all the time. And a lot of people don't realize the seriousness of it. And I'm going to mention it during this Fiesta podcast because I know that, this is something that's going to come up down at Fiesta. So nowadays you get people with the vape pens, right? And if you have a vape pen with THC in it, any kind of THC oil, concentrate, or wax, that's actually a felony.
And you can buy these at a convenience store, right? They sell them over the counter.
Yeah.
And I've bonded out a lot of people, and these are felonies, man. So you're talking about going to jail and having to wait maybe a year, 2 years, up to 3 years to go to court on something that you bought over the counter, and it doesn't seem fair. And again, the law's the law. So now you have these situations where how do you know it's THC in there, or how do you know it's just nicotine?
Right.
So I don't know how the officers are weighing that out. And I've had people that I bonded out say, hey, Sal, this was just had nicotine. I said, I don't know what the officer
or
looked
this
in
was
there.
CBD.
Yeah.
Or this was,
So, you're right. You know more about it than I do.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how to explain the legislation and what they're thinking.
Well, and a lot of people get confused because you're right. People come into the office and they say, well, wait a minute, I bought this at a store and I have the receipt and on the packaging, it says this. And, you really have to be careful. A lot of these products that are out there, I don't know what kind of testing the vendor's going through or the manufacturer. The officer is not going to take a lot of time to investigate it. If the packaging mentions THC or he feels he can detect
the packaging? They throw them away anyways, and you get that just of the item itself. And a lot of times they're faded or whatever. So I don't know how they're determining what's legal and what's illegal.
And the thing about it is it's so much more serious than just plant material, what we call bud marijuana. Right? I mean, I
deny any knowledge of using that stuff. I know what you're talking about.
You're not the DEA anymore.
Yeah, I forgot.
So if you get caught with like a joint in your pocket, that's a Class B misdemeanor, right? Less than 2 ounces of marijuana. But if you have the equivalent amount, but it's oil inside a vape pen, it's a felony. It's a state jail felony. And the dangerous thing about it, again, is even if down the road that case is able to get dismissed or dropped or whatever the case may be, maybe you get some kind of pretrial diversion or they reduce it to a misdemeanor, you're still going to have to post bail on a felony.
That's right.
You're still going to have to get charged for a felony. You're going to get indicted. You have to hire an attorney for a felony, which is going to be more expensive than hiring an attorney for a misdemeanor. Yeah. You're still going to have to go through that whole process.
No, and I tell people that get ready for a long, tedious, situation when it comes down to the judicial system. Again, by law, they have up to 3 years in statute of limitations. Excuse me. So I have people out on bond. And then they come out of jail and said, hey, Sal, what's my next step? I said, well, you got to figure out, because you've been working, do you want to tell your employer? And I tell people, you know what? I'm one of those who rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. If you talk to your employer, you tell your boss and you think he's nice, shit rolls uphill. He's going to tell his supervisor. Next thing you know, they're going to have to do something administratively, and very likely you're going to get fired. And as for other misdemeanors, again, I tell people when they're working, they're concerned about their job or their occupation or their future. I said, you know what, look at the guidelines regarding your current situation. As for their future opportunities, again, you've only been arrested, okay? So there's 3 terms that I tell my clients. You've only been arrested for this. You have not been charged, and you definitely haven't been convicted. Right. So when you look at your guidelines in your company or organization or for whatever career you're pursuing, those 3 terms are very important. Now, if you get arrested, does it come out on an FBI or a criminal history check? Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I don't understand the rationale there either, and who submits it and how come, hey, you know what, Sal, this case was rejected, or it was never taken to court, and it's on my record. So then they have to get it expunged. So you know more about that than I do, Stephen. But
so as soon as they get arrested, that the fingerprints, the booking photo, all of that stuff gets transmitted to Texas Department of Public Safety, who is the clearinghouse for criminal records here in the state of Texas. So that arrest in and of itself triggers a record. But, the vape pens, again, I say this is fairly recent because I don't remember having these cases 10 years ago. I started seeing them maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago at most. A lot of kids have the vape pens, right? And so if you're out at Fiesta and you're having your drinks and you pull out your little vape pen and there's an officer nearby who sees you, you could be arrested for a felony if that vape pen has any kind of THC in it. Okay, so just be aware of that. I don't think it's something that people think of that often because you can get them at the convenience stores, you can get them at the smoke shops, but it's actually a felony level offense.
And for some reason, the bonds are a lot higher. I don't know what's going on here. The last couple of months, actually, within the last year, for some reason, the bonds used to be maybe like $4,000, $5,000, which is pretty low. But for some reason, I've been getting $20,000, $30,000 for one vape pen, and I feel bad for the people that I've got to buy them out. Generally, bond companies will charge 10%. I've given discounts because there's just a lot of money the parents are throwing away, or the spouse or whoever, for the bond fees. So, and again, I explained to them the long process of resolving this issue. And it could take, like I said, up to 2, 3 years. years.
Yeah, well, we just had bail bond reform here in the state of Texas, and I'm assuming with that, maybe some counties revised their bail bond schedule, which is just the recommended bond amounts for various offenses. So it may be the case that, those recommended bail amounts have gone up ever since bail bond reform
They are
passed.
punishing people for something that you buy at a stop and rob. It's not, hey, I'm going to have a few puffs here and there occasionally, but don't have it in the car. Keep it at home or just,
Yeah, I mean, that's, if you're out at Fiesta and you're going to be drinking, carrying around a THC vape pen in your pocket is probably a bad idea.
Or even in the car. Again, and nothing in the car, anything illegal. And I tell everybody from drinking, don't leave empty beer cans, don't leave a joint, any type of even prescription medication that you might have had, or somebody gave you some Xanax because you had some back pain previously. If you have something illegal in there and you get pulled over, it could be a felony.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is not to kind of be a downer when it comes to Fiesta. Everybody should go out there, have fun, eat the gorditas, eat the roasted corn, have your beers, listen to good music, but just be careful about what you do. Be safe. If you feel not if you feel you're too intoxicated, if you've been drinking at all, consider doing rideshare or a designated driver. Now, if you do get in trouble and you're driving back home to Wilson County or Karnes County or wherever it may be, and you get pulled over and you need a bondsman, you can call 830-393-7676.
Better call Sal.
Freedom Bail Bonds for Sal Martinez. And if you find yourself needing an attorney and you feel like your life's falling apart, call us at BRCK Criminal Defense. We'll help you put those pieces back together. Our number is 210-874-5080. Again, this is So You Got Arrested from BRCK Criminal Defense. I'm Steve Barrera, and this is Sal Martinez. Thank you all.
Thanks for listening to So You Got Arrested. If you found this podcast helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. For more legal insights and real talk from the front lines of the Texas justice system, follow us and subscribe. And remember, BRCK Criminal Defense has your back. For more information, visit us at brckdefense.com.